And now, back to the Dr. A Show with your host, Dr. Will Aguila.
America has an addiction problem, but it's not just with drugs or alcohol. It's with sugar. Sugar is in almost everything we eat. The side effects aren't just weight gain. They're premature aging, increased risk of diabetes, atherosclerosis, heart disease, and even cataracts. Our next guest has written a book that contains a comprehensive 1-month plan to wean readers off their sugar cravings. Brooke Alpert is the founder of Be Nutritious, and she works with a variety of clients to meet their nutritional goals while working within their lifestyle. A graduate of NYU, Brooke was named as one of the new up-and-coming stars in the beauty and health field in W Magazine and has been featured and quoted in numerous magazines, websites, and television, including Glamour Magazine, Shape Magazine, People, MTV, and The Tyra Banks Show. Brooke will be featured on the Dr. Oz Show on July 1st. Her website is thesugardetoxbook.com. Hi, Brooke. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Brooke, about how much sugar do you think Americans eat per day?
Americans, on average, are eating over 70 pounds of extra sugar per year. So
Wow.
That is tablespoons upon tablespoons per day that we are eating, and half the time we don't even know it.
Wow. Now, sugar has been shown to be addicting, right? There are multiple studies that are showing this. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. The recent studies have shown that withdrawal from sugar is similar to withdrawal from cocaine, and that cravings and urgings for sugar are just as strong as other narcotics as well.
That's amazing, isn't it? And I know there's studies where they did MRIs or scans, and the same areas that light up when you take cocaine or other addictive drugs light up when people take sugar. Is that right?
Exactly. So the MRI showed, how the body's reacting and craving for it, and sort of the reward center. And so the reason why sugar is really part of the whole comfort food system is that we actually physically feel reward when we're eating it. So we're going to want more and more. We're releasing endorphins and serotonin and all of that. We just want more and more of.
And this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the reason why we turn to sugar when we're sad or depressed. I mean, so many times you see in a movie somebody who has had a broken relationship or something, and they hit the bucket of ice cream, or they eat marshmallows or stuff like that. Is that
It's such a cliche, but the truth is, it's not even when we're sad. We eat sugar when we're happy. We eat it to celebrate. We eat it when we're sad, nursing a breakup, of course. We are constantly eating to celebrate, and most of the foods we are eating are really high in sugar. So it just makes us want to eat more and more.
But how would I know if I'm a sugar addict? Let's say that, maybe I have a problem with sugar, but how would I know that?
Well, let's think about your habits. And we're not even just talking about the candy bars or scooping sugar into your coffee. Take a look at everything you're eating for the day. Take a look at how you take your coffee first thing in the morning. Take a look at that yogurt. See how much fruit you're consuming. So even someone who might consider themselves healthy likely can be consuming tons and tons of sugar because it's just added everywhere. White bread is broken down into the body like you're eating pure sugar. Same thing with the white rice. So even though you may not even have a sweet tooth, you possibly can be consuming tons and tons of sugar.
But that's all fine and dandy, Brooke, but why is sugar the bad guy? Why is it the bad guy? What's wrong with sugar?
The truth is, and we say this in our book, and we don't beat around the bush, but sugar is making us fat, ugly, and old. And the Sugar Detox, my book that I co-wrote with a dermatologist, is causing us to have high levels of insulin. When insulin is present in our bodies, we start to only store fat. We don't burn it. All this extra fat is leading to all the comorbidities related to obesity. So everything from heart disease to Alzheimer's to cancers, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, the works, is all due to too much sugar. Now, taking the aesthetics, sugar causes early aging. There's something called glycation, which happens when you have all this extra sugar floating in your bloodstream, and it attaches to molecules like protein or elastin or collagen in your skin. And when the sugar attaches it causes these things called AGEs, advanced glycated end products. And that causes your skin to look saggy. It causes wrinkles. It causes drooping. So sugar's affecting our body and our health, but sugar's affecting our face.
Wow. So it is more extreme than we thought.
It is an epidemic, absolutely.
Wow. So how about the sugar in fruits? You mentioned fruits. Is that the same as table sugar?
No, it's not the same as table sugar. We limit fruit in the beginning to break that sugar cycle. So many people I know, they're like, oh, I gave up sugar, but they're consuming cups and cups worth of fruit. So their body is still producing it like sugar, and it doesn't stop that sweet tooth craving. So our goal in the Sugar Detox is to stop the addictive behavior of needing so much sugar. And so in the beginning, we limit the amount of fruit you can have. The first 3 days are no fruit, and then starting week 1 of the Sugar Detox, you're allowed to have an apple a day. We slowly increase the amount of natural sugars you have, including fruit. But at the end, you have about 2 servings of fruit once you're on maintenance, which is very reasonable. You get all the antioxidants, all the fiber, all the vitamins and minerals, but you're not overdosing on sugar.
What about carbs? You know, everybody needs carbs. What do you do with them?
Well, everyone needs carbs, and we're not anti-carbs. In my private practice, I'm not anti-carbs. I'm anti the wrong kind of carbs, and I'm anti-improper portions of it. So many people they don't understand what a proper pasta serving is, and it's white flour pasta that they're eating, and they're eating a bucket load. What we people to, so what we like people to do is that pasta isn't the main dish. Like in Italy, it's never the main dish, and we only recommend using whole wheat or a high-protein pasta. There's so many brands in any supermarket you could find now of either one of those. So we're not anti-carb. We're just pro the right kind of carb.
Now, how about whole wheat and whole grains and all that? Are those better?
Absolutely. So that's exactly the kind of carb I was talking about. We want those whole grains. They have more vitamins and minerals. They're loaded with B vitamins, which are really important for your whole metabolism and cell turnover, on top of which they have more fiber. So they're slower to digest. They cause less of a spike in your blood sugar, and they'll keep you fuller longer and stop that cycle of behavior of having something that's sugary or broken down into the body as sugar and then needing more. You can be more satisfied with the whole grain pasta or whole grains like quinoa, amaranth, buckwheat, barley, the works.
Let me back up there for a minute, because you mentioned about the sugar spikes, or the blood glucose spikes, and the spikes of the sugar in your blood. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us why that's important to keep it at a steady level.
Absolutely. So what happens? So let's just talk about, let's say we're drinking juice. Right? We drink a sugary beverage like juice. It goes directly into our system. Because there's no fiber, there's no protein, and there's no fat, it gets absorbed into our bloodstream super quick. It means it goes right through our digestive system and whoop, right into the bloodstream, and now you have all this sugar in your blood. Because it happens so quickly, that's tons of sugar invading your bloodstream at once. When that happens, your body is then told, hey, we need insulin. Insulin's in charge of telling all that sugar where to go, whether it could be used for energy or whether it could be used to be stored for fat in case there's ever a hunger strike that happens, which, let's be honest, doesn't happen in America very often.
Right.
So with all this sugar, insulin is now present. Insulin is telling your body, store it, save it for later, because we're still, at the end of the day, we're still human beings from a long time ago. Our bodies haven't fully evolved to say that, we're really not going to have a hunger shortage. We're not hunters and gatherers anymore. And so we're storing all this fat, and then what happens is, because we're constantly then reflooding with more sugar into the bloodstream, insulin's being caused to stay awake again and alert again. And the more that insulin is constantly being alerted, the less effective insulin gets. So this is what happens when you then have insulin resistance, which is one of the first precursors to type 2 diabetes. So all of a sudden, insulin is no longer effective, and you're stuck with all this extra extra sugar in your bloodstream. And that's where the whole problem and all the slew of issues really start.
And that explains how excess sugar leads to obesity, exactly.
Exactly, right? When insulin is present, all your body can do is store fat. We can't burn it. We can't use it. So all that insulin is saying, hey, let's put some more on those love handles. Hey, let's put some more on that tummy. And we get fatter and fatter.
Well, let's touch on that again when we come back from our break. Brooke Alpert is the founder of Be Nutritious, and she works with a variety of clients to meet their nutritional goals while working within their lifestyle. Brooke was named as one of the new up-and-coming stars in the beauty and health field in W Magazine. Brooke will be featured on the Dr. Oz Show on July 1st. Her website is thesugardetoxbook.com. Can sugar make you age faster? The answer when the Dr. A Show continues with Brooke Alpert, author of Sugar Detox. Stay with us.
And now, back to the Dr. A Show with your host, Dr. Will Aguila.
We're back to the show. Our guest is Brooke Alpert, author of Sugar Detox. We've been discussing how sugar is addictive and what effect it has on us. There are different types of sugars, but one of the most common ones is fructose. Now, Brooke, what is fructose?
Fructose is the natural sugar that's found in fruit. So it sounds like something that can be quite not harmful, something good for you. But the truth is fructose gets metabolized differently by the body, which is one of the reasons why we have such a problem with this high fructose corn syrup everyone's talking about right now. Fructose in the form of fruit is better for you than any other kind of fructose because with the fruit, as we said earlier too, with the fruit you get fiber, you get antioxidants, you get vitamins and minerals. So this is all good stuff you're consuming. All that fiber slows down the absorption of the fructose into the body, so it makes it better for you. The problem when we overdo fructose is that it gets metabolized by the liver, and that's what turns into high triglycerides for us, which then means that we have all of this sugar floating into our bloodstream, and it doesn't get used for energy the way that we would like it to.
It is possible to have too many fruits, too much watermelon, for instance.
Absolutely. And it's not even that you can have too much fruit, but you could also be eating too much of the wrong fruit. So in the sugar detox, while we're not anti-fruit, it's the same thing we say about carbohydrates. We're not anti-fruit or carbohydrates. We're anti-too much of the wrong types. So the best fruit we love an apple. An apple has these amazing anti-aging antioxidants. These antioxidants actually help slow down glycation and are anti-glycators. So it actually prevents all that nasty stuff happening to your skin. And apples are really high in fiber. So fiber compared to the fructose on top of the glycemic index, an apple's an all-star fruit. We tend to have our readers, we want them to shy away from higher sugar fruits. So we want you shying away from pineapple and bananas and watermelon are the three big ones that we ask you to shy away from.
How about berries?
We're pro-berries. Berries start the second week in the sugar detox.
And they have a lot of antioxidant effects there, too, right, with the berries?
Exactly. What we looked at when it came to fruit was the amount of fructose, the glycemic index. And for those that don't know, the glycemic index basically measures what kind of sugar spike you get when you eat a certain food. So watermelon, even though it's a low-calorie food and it's a high water content, a watermelon has a very high glycemic index number. So when you consume watermelon, you get a big spike in your blood sugar. And that's one thing that we're majorly trying to avoid. So,
well, how about for people who are used to these sugars and used to that spike? Won't they go into withdrawal if you remove these things abruptly?
First 3 days, we have a program called the Sugar Fix. That's when we go cold turkey. There's no fruit, there's no dairy, there's no alcohol, there's no carbohydrates aside from vegetables. Some of our testers really felt major withdrawal symptoms. Now, their symptoms can be mild, like a little cranky or tired, but some were much stronger. Some had the sweats, some were really irritable, some were really uncomfortable those 3 days. It was never to the point of unhealthy. It was never unsafe. The sugar detox is fully safe as long as you are not on any sort of insulin or diabetic. But they really had strong withdrawal symptoms. The great thing about how we organized it is that the first 3 days, it's only 3 days. I mean, look, we can last without food for 3 days as long as we had water. So people, all of our testers were really able to get their minds around, like, look, this is 3 days. I can power through it. And then on day 4, which is day 1 of week 1 in our book, you get that apple. And when you eat that apple after having no sugar for 3 days, it is it's like a whole new world starts. And, our testers, we had over 80 subjects test this diet. People were sending us these emails like, I never knew onions were sweet. That apple was the best thing I've ever had.
Wow.
It was so fun getting these responses to be like, hearing people say, raw almonds were sweet. Who would have known it?
You're basically hitting the reset button.
Exactly. We are recalibrating people's palates in those 3 days. So I would say that's worth a headache and some irritability.
That's pretty ingenious. Now, what are some of the tips that we can use to, let's say, when we go eat out?
There's tons of tips, and one thing that I do in my practice that's based out of New York City is I have these clients that don't eat home very much. So there's a certain amount of control that we give up when we don't eat at home, right? We're not cooking every meal, but I'm a realist as a dietitian in what I can expect people to be doing, and the same thing in this book. So there's great tips for eating out that are in the book. There's a whole section about eating in any kind of cuisine of what you can do. Things from making sure that they don't even put certain things on the table. Let's just say no to the bread basket.
No bread. No.
It just, if you didn't order it, you shouldn't be eating it. That's one of my major things.
And if you don't see it, it's out of mind. Out of mind, out of sight, that's it.
Exactly. And so asking for substitutions, the brown rice instead of the white rice, asking for a sweet potato instead of a baked potato or French fries, small things that you can do that'll make a healthy sugar detox substitution that will allow you to eat out and go to any of your favorite restaurants.
How about if you visit family or friends? Well, that's a tough one there, because they're going to force you to eat.
It depends on the family or friends. So, often I deal with, in my practice, there's people that are sabotagers. You're surrounded by people that are making unhealthy choices, and they don't like to see someone making a healthy choice because it sort of brings that attention to themselves that they're no longer being healthy. So I always suggest for my clients, for our readers, if you're invited somewhere, bring something that's safe for you. Bring enough for everyone. There's nothing wrong with bringing a crudité platter, some nice cut-up vegetables, and a hummus tray. That's a great dish, and everyone always appreciates it. And if they don't, you did it all to yourself.
That makes sense, and then you can fake it where it looks like you're eating a lot of what they're serving, but you kind of fill your plate with your stuff.
Exactly. And if you're not in a situation where you could bring your own food or, really provide something for it, do your best and fill up your plate with all the good stuff. So there's very little room for any of those indulgences. But your best bet when you're out of control and sort of not able to know exactly what you're going to eat, don't arrive hungry.
Yeah, and also eat your protein first. If you eat all your protein first, I always noted that works really well. And also the protein eventually tells your brain that you're full much faster. So eating protein first, all your protein first, and then heading on to your veggies and then whatever carbs you have, I think works out pretty well.
Absolutely. It's really just sort of setting yourself up for success.
Now, we have kids, okay, and it's really tough to get your kids to eat right. So what can we do to keep our kids from becoming addicted to sugar?
Well, look, I have a 4.5-year-old. I know all about this. It is very hard, but I think one of the things that's most important is to realize you are in control of your household. Whether you're the mom, the dad, the grandmother, it doesn't matter. Whoever runs the household is in control of what you bring into it. So if you can control what your kids are eating when they're home, then the lack of control you have when they're not in the home is only a small percentage. So if you know your kids are going to school with a good, healthy breakfast, and they're going to come home and have a good, healthy dinner, then if lunch isn't the best because they get to make their own choice, it's not the worst thing. And then,
that's
ideally,
that's one of the most common sense responses I've heard, and that makes a lot of sense because we tend to be all or nothing. Either we plan a great diet for them and give them all the nutrients, or we just say, the heck with it. I'm not going to make a dent in it. But that's an excellent response.
Yeah, I've always kept my household really clean. If it's a birthday or a special occasion, my daughter gets dessert here. Most of the time at home, we live a very healthy life, but when we're out and we pass the ice cream truck and she wants it, she has it. It's a no big deal kind of situation. But for the most part, she actually prefers to have a bowl of fruit over an ice pop because that's what she's been raised with. So it's setting the example early on, setting the tone for how kids eat early on, and then keeping the house as clean and healthy as possible. This way you can get it most where it counts, and the rest that happens is sort of just life and growing up.
Now, very quickly, we're running out of time. Tell us again how the diet affects the aging, sugars.
Absolutely. So too much sugar, as we talked about earlier, causes all these advanced glycated end products, which basically makes you look old. By reducing the amount of sugar we're consuming, you're going to have less sagging and less wrinkling. On top of which, this diet is filled with tons of antioxidants and all these great anti-glycating properties. So we're going to be fighting your skin from underneath, from where it starts. So taking the sugar out helps you look younger. Adding all these antioxidants and anti-glycators in helps you look younger.
Again, the book is called The Sugar Detox, and it's available at all major bookstores. Don't forget to catch Brooke and The Sugar Detox on the Dr. Oz Show on July 1st. Brooke, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. A.
And that is the show. Don't forget to follow us at thedrashow.com for more. This is Dr. A. Thank you for listening.